Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, today we are going to be talking about again the summary of few of the chapters of Chapter 1 of Lakshmikant Polity. The first comes is the Chartered Act of 1853. Here we could see that the extended life of East India Company is given for an unspecified period of time because they have already lost the monopoly business category from their hands. Second comes the law members were made a full member of Executive Council of the Government General. Recruitment to civil service was based on an open and annual competitive examination including Indians. That's what we call now, that is the UPSC. Okay, it could be a question and mains as well as the prelims, so we should need to understand this one. It can come as a question. Second comes the Government of India Act 1858. By the end of the rule of East India Company and then direct rule of Crown came into the limelight. That is, Queen was actually directing or like it was in the direct watch of the country instead of the East India Company. Secondly, the post of the Secretary of the State for India was created and done and was again regulated by the Crown itself. Now, the Government General was known as the Viceroy. First of them was at this position was Lord Canning. A unitary and highly centralized administrative structure was created for this Government General, who is actually known as the Viceroy at that moment of time. The second comes the Indian Council Act 1861. The portfolio for the cabinet system in the government was first time introduced for the country India. Then the restoration of the power was given to the Bombay and Madras. Again, the Legislative Council for India was laid down in 1861 and policy of Association of India and legislation started. That means Indians were also included in this case. Then the civil service examination became Indian Civil Service, that is the ICS, and Subhash Chandra Bose also gave and also was qualified in this examination. The Viceroy could issue the ordinance in case of emergency and in order for the convenience of the transaction of the House. Next comes the Indian Council Act of 1892. The representative system was started in India, and then the council has the power to discuss the budget and address the question to the executive. Then increase of the members of the Legislative Council and province was seen. The third part comes the ICA Act, Indian Council Act of Morley-Minto Reform. Morley was the Secretary of State and Minto was the first Indian Viceroy at that moment of time. It was introduced for the first time as the indirect election to the state legislature council. So here separate electorate was introduced for Muslim, big landlords, Britishers and capitalists. The resolution could be more before the budget as it takes its final form. Supplementary questions can be asked, like people would be able to ask or make some reforms and questionnaires before it was done finally. Then increase in the number of elected members in the Imperial Legislature Council was also done. And then finally comes the Government of India Act 1919, that is Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. The subject of administration was divided into two categories, that is provincial and central. The hierarchy system was introduced in the provinces. Provincial subject was divided into two categories, that is transferred and reserved subject. Indian legislature became bicameral for the very first time. Then communal representation was extended even to 6. Officer of High Commissioner of India was created basically in London, even though it was for India. Transferred subjects were to be administered by the government with the aid of ministers, and they were responsible for the legislative council. And then enlarged provincial legislative council was even formed. The Government of India Act 1935. The Government of India Act was provincial for setting up the Federation of India, comprising British India provinces and Indian states. Joining of the states was voluntary, and as a result, the federation did not come into the existence.